Welcome to Narayana IAS Academy. This is Sureka Bhaskar presenting to you the daily news analysis. In today's discussion, we'll be discussing a number of topics taken from The Hindu and the Indian Express which are relevant and important for the UPSC CSE examination. Now let us have a look at the topics. The first topic is ensure no hate speech, Supreme Court tells district magistrates, and this is nothing but the recent directions of the Supreme Court given to the district authorities of Chhattisgarh over increased concerns of hate speech during political rallies. So this is found in the Indian Express page number 7. Moving on is Pakistan condemns airstrikes by Iran, recalls ambassador. This is taken from The Hindu page number 1, which deals with Pakistan recalling its ambassador in the backdrop of Iranian airstrike over its soil. The next one is from The Hindu page number 14, where rainfall rising in over half of India's sub-districts says 4-decadal study. This is nothing but a recent analysis taken up by the Council on Energy, Environment and Water on the meteorological data of the IMD from 1982 to 2022. Followed by this, we will be looking at another Hindu article, that is Ancient DNA Reveals Origins of Multiple Sclerosis. Here we'll be discussing about the genetic origin of the neurological condition of multiple sclerosis, the causes, the treatment as well as the symptoms. The last news that we'll be discussing for the day is Disproportionate Act CPR on cancellation of its FCRA license, where the government has claimed that the think tank CPR, that is Center for Policy Research, has not followed the principles or the regulations under FCRA Act by using funds for its legal battles against developmental projects. The first article for the day is ensure no hate speech, Supreme Court tells district magistrates ahead of political rallies. So this particular article comes in the backdrop of the recent direction given by the Supreme Court to the district authorities of Chhattisgarh in order to take necessary steps after concerns over hate speech was raised from the political rallies. So this particular article is important as we discuss about hate speech as well as the fundamental right that is enshrined in Article 19 of the Constitution, that is freedom of speech and expression, and this becomes important from mains GS paper 2, Indian Constitution, government policies and interventions. There have been previous year questions on the freedom of speech and expression and hate speech, that is in 2014 and 2013, and in 2013 the question asked, discuss section 66A of the IT Act with reference to its alleged violation of Article 19 of the Constitution. So this particular topic becomes an important point of discussion for the examination. Moving forward, let us actually move into the news. The Supreme Court directed the district authorities of Chhattisgarh in order to take appropriate steps after the concerns were raised over hate speeches at the political rallies. Now let us understand what is hate speech, what are the impacts of hate speech, what are the legal provisions with respect to that of hate speech, and what are the recommendations given by Law Commission and other agencies, and what is the way forward. Moving on, now let us understand what is hate speech. Hate speech consists of words that are intended to create hatred against a specific group. They might be a community, they might be an ethnicity, religion or a particular race. This kind of speech many a times may lack substance, but this often leads to violence. Hate speech can take various forms. It is not only restricted to the form of words, but it can also be images, cartoons, memes, objects, gestures and symbols which can be shared both offline and online. Now, the Law Commission of India 267th report defines hate speech as an incitement to hatred, primarily against a group of persons who are defined in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, religious belief and so on. Now let us understand the impacts of hate speech. Hate speech is said to disturb the law and order. How? Because it actually leads to public disorder and creates a climate of fear and hostility. So, hate speech actually disturbs law and disorder. How? Because first, it actually leads to a lot of public disorder, which is nothing but it causes a lot of tension to the social cohesion, and it brings about a climate of fear and hostility among the people. Next one, it targets minorities. That is, hate speech, as we saw, that it is targeted towards a particular group of people. And here we can talk about the vulnerable section of the society who can be subject to further discrimination and marginalization. The next one is erosion of rights. Hate speech actually undermines the most important rights of people. The rights include dignity, equality, and freedom of speech of targeted individuals. Moving on, incitement of violence. Hate speech actually provokes a lot of violence. It causes tension in the social cohesion. And these impacts are further amplified by recent technological advancements. The last one is religious polarization. That is, hate speech actually contributes to religious polarization because this promotes divisive narratives and sows discord, religious groups. So, if you see the impacts of hate speech, first one starting from leading to public disorder and bringing a climate of fear and hostility, it actually targets specific groups, especially the vulnerable sections of the population where they are subject to further discrimination as well as marginalization. It erodes their rights, that is, undermines the right of dignity, equality, and freedom of speech and expression of targeted groups, further leading to incitement of violence where it actually breaks the fabric, that is social fabric, by breaking social cohesion, which are amplified or aggravated by the recent technological advancements. And finally, it brings about religious polarization where it promotes divisive narratives and brings about social discord among various religious groups. Now let us look at the legal framework for regulating hate speech in India. So, it is important to understand and know that the provision of hate speech or the definition of hate speech does not find any place in any of the legal frameworks in India, be it constitutional provisions or the legal provisions. However, if you see the constitutional provision of Article 19, Clause 2, which allows freedom of speech and expression, but this particular freedom is not absolute. It comes with reasonable restrictions for maintaining public order, decency, or morality. Hence, this Article 19, Clause 2, that is your fundamental right of freedom of speech and expression, is not absolute. The next one is Indian Penal Code, that is the IPC 1860, which will be replaced by Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita Bill, that is sections 153A, 153B, 298 and 505 addresses the speech that could incite mischief, religious outrage, or that can threaten the national integration of a country. Moving on, we have the RPA, that is the Representation of People Act 1951, where sections 8 disqualifies individuals from elections for misusing their freedom of speech, which indirectly covers hate speech. Next one is section 123, that is clause 3A, and 125 prohibits promoting enmity during the elections. Followed by that, we have Protection of Civil Rights Act of 1955, according to which the Section 7 penalizes promotion of untouchability through spoken or written words, signs, or any other kinds of visible representations. Moving forward, we have the CRPC, that is the Code of Criminal Procedure, which has been replaced by Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita Bill. So, the Code of Criminal Procedure, it authorizes arrests for cognizable offences, including the hate speech. And finally, the IT Act, which regulates the online speech. And this particular act requires the social media platforms in order to remove the law-violating content within 36 hours of notification. Now, let us look at the challenges in countering hate speech. The first one is freedom of speech concerns. So, as we know, there is no clear definition, or there is an ambiguous definition given to hate speech, and since it finds no mention in any of the legal frameworks, there is a difficulty in striking a balance between protecting the right to freedom of speech and hate speech. Okay, so difficulties in balancing the hate speech, countermeasures with that of the right of freedom of speech. The next one is vague definition, as we already discussed. Next one is online platforms. There is a lot of challenges in monitoring and regulating the rapidly expanding online platform, which actually further aggravates the hate speech. Next one is censorship concerns. Okay, there is a risk of over-regulation to the print media and also other kind of digital media on what kind of news actually falls under the ambit of hate speech. And this will actually necessitate, or it results in suppressing their dissenting opinions, which is actually important for a democracy. Next one is political manipulation. Hate speech can be used as a tool of exploitation for political gains. And the next one is culture and societal factors, where we know that hate speech is actually deep-rooted or deep-seated in a society like India. Thereby, addressing such an issue becomes very difficult. Moving forward, let us see some of the suggestions actually given or put forward by the Law Commission. The Law Commission states that to create distinct offences under the IPC, that is the Indian Penal Code, in order to address hate speech rather than incorporating in the existing sections. It says that there is a necessity to create exclusive sections that actually deal with hate speech. Next one is legal measures, where we adopt laws to punish the hate speech and ensure their application is non-selective, non-arbitrary, and the cases are transparent. Next one is alternative dispute resolution. We need to focus on resolving the hate speech cases through negotiation, through mediation and arbitration or conciliation, rather than solely focusing on legal measures, okay, or legal proceedings. Next one is non-legal measures. Number one is to engage the religious leaders in order to foster empathy and to reduce the communal tensions. The next one is strategic monitoring of hate speech and mob mobilization, especially effective utilization of social media is very important. Next is implementing human rights education, and this should be used as a key strategy in order to prevent or to counter hate speech. The next article that we'll be discussing about is Pakistan condemns air strikes by Iran, recalls ambassador. So, this particular article is discussing about Islamabad, that is the capital of Pakistan, recalling its ambassador from Tehran following the recent airstrike conducted by Iran on Pakistani soil. So, this particular topic becomes important from mains GS paper 2, effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest as well as India's diaspora. And here we will be discussing, and it is important to understand the regional crisis in West Asia and its impact on India's interest. So moving forward, there have been previous year's questions on international relations asking about the US-Iran nuclear pact and how will that affect the national interest of India. So any geopolitical situation that actually happens across the world, we need to bring it an India angle. So this particular topic becomes an important topic of discussion. Moving forward, looking into the news, as we already discussed, Pakistan had recalled its ambassador from Tehran. Tehran is the capital of Iran. a day after Iran had actually launched airstrikes on the Pakistan soil. Here, what is the explanation Iran actually gives to Pakistan is that Iran claims that it targeted the Sunni militant separatist group which was actually based in Pakistan. However, Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan, has denounced this attack as a blatant violation of its airspace. So, looking at this particular instance or an incident, we need to see and understand that this is the resurgence of larger West Asian regional crisis. The region of West Asia as well as Middle East Asia have been facing a lot of instability of late, and for this we need to understand and give it a historical perspective. So here they need to understand a number of issues ranging from Islamic or Iranian Revolution of 1979. We need to understand Iran's nuclear program. We need to understand US-Iran nuclear deal in 2015 and US walking out of it in 2018. And we need to also connect it with the most recent Israel-Palestine conflict. So before going into the history and understanding what the topic is about, there are certain basics that we need to understand, okay? So across the world, there are two different sects of Muslim population. That is, one is the Shia population, the next one is the Sunni population. And 90% of the Muslim population are Sunnis, and their geographical spread are across areas or regions of Pakistan, Turkey, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, etc. Whereas if you see the minority, that is the Shia sect, who are lesser in population numbers, they are spread across regions of Iran, Iraq, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, etc. So now you know Iran has actually stated that it has conducted an airstrike targeting the Sunni militant group which were based in Pakistan. So Iran has Shia population and it is against the Sunni ideology, and throughout history both these sects of Shia and Sunni had conflicts and as well as rifts predominantly based on their ideology. Now let us move into it. So as I told you, how do we actually deal with the insurgency or a regional instability in this Middle East region? The first one is, before the 1979 Iran or the Islamic Revolution, till 1978, Iran was ruled by a form of government, or you can say it was ruled by Pahlavi dynasty, which was a pro-American government and a theocracy. What is theocracy? Theocracy is rule of priests in the name of God. Okay. So, in order to overthrow this theocratic form of government, there was a revolution in 1979. It was led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, and his attempt was successful in overthrowing this Pahlavi dynasty, and he established a form of government that was neither a democracy nor a theocracy, and that was called as guardianship of the jurist. So what happened? Before the 1979 revolution, till 1978, the Pahlavi dynasty, which was theocratic as well as pro-America, was ruling Iran, after which the revolution of 1979 wanted to overthrow this kind of a government, and it was replaced by guardianship of the jurist. Okay. And now you will see what happens is the government which was pro-American now had become anti-American. So this was one cause of regional instability. Why do I say this was one cause of regional stability? It is because when there was Iran-US nuclear deal, US actually chose to walk out of the deal. That is, this nuclear deal, that is JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was signed in 2015, which US under Donald Trump actually walked out in the year 2018. Also, this was one of the reasons for the rift. And another reason was imposition of sanctions on Iran with respect to its trade as well as oil that crippled Iran's economy. Okay, and followed by this, there were various other reasons. Following this, another major reason was that there was a military leader of Iran since 1998 named as Soleimani, and he was assassinated by US in 2020, and Israel is also alleged to have given a helping hand to the US in assassinating Iran's military leader. Okay, following that, what happened is that there was an operation called as Operation Olympic Game that focused on launching cybercrime on the nuclear program of Iran, where Israel's agency called Mossad was also involved. So apart from the rift that this particular region actually had with that of the West, that is US, there were also internal divisions that were actually taking place. There was internal fissures that was actually taking place. That is, if we see, there was a lot of sectarian divide in this region, where Iran being a Shia majority country, it also had Sunni provinces like Kurdistan, where we had ISIS Khorasan operating, and this is actually powered or given support by Saudi Arabia. And also we have another region called Sistan Balochistan, and also there is another Sunni group called as Jaish al-Adl. This is supposed to be operating from Pakistan soil, on which Iran had actually carried out its recent attack. So this is actually a brief history of what is the region or the cause of the regional instability in the Middle East. Now let us understand. So here you can see the region of Iran, which is actually a Shia majority country. We have Pakistan, which is again a Sunni majority. We have Iraq, which is again a Shia majority, and Turkey again, which is a Sunni majority. So this is the reason I told you that there was a lot of historical splits of fissures in between these two sects with respect to that of their ideology. Moving forward, I told you there was another form of government that was actually established, with structure was actually like this. Okay, different elements, like there was an electorate, from there originates the legislature, we have the assembly of experts, the supreme leader, then the chief judge, then that forms the judiciary, and so on. This was neither a democracy nor a theocracy. Moving ahead, now looking into it, so whatever I had explained, we are going to see it very quickly. So there had been a 1979 Islamic revolution, that is where there was an overthrow of pro-American Shah regime, that is the Pahlavian dynasty had Shah as its leader, in favor of a theocratic system. It led to regional tension and reshaped Iran's foreign policy. Followed by that, there were a lot of social fissures where there were internal divisions within Iran, I told you, particularly in Sunni majority regions like Kurdistan, then Sistan Balochistan, Azerbaijan, and all those things, which contributed to the domestic instability and regional concerns. Moving forward, there were women life freedom movement. That is, it was a social movement that was challenging the government policies, and it highlights the societal issues, and this has actually led to the political shifts in the particular region. Moreover, the recent conflict in Gaza, then withdrawal from the nuclear deal. I told you that US withdrew from the JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, in 2018 under Donald Trump, and this crippled Iran's economy. Followed by that, now I told you Iran's strategy was actually led by the military leader Qasem Soleimani. It involved a unique blend of militant and state power, and he contributed to its regional influence in the formation of axis of resistance. This particular axis of resistance extended from Gulf of Oman via different regions like Iraq, Syria, and it extended to East Mediterranean. Okay, so this is the axis of resistance. Followed by that, there was Israeli actions. I told you there were attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities, and in the changing geopolitics, there was alliance with Russia and China. That is, Iran's alignment with Russia and China in the face of US pressure has created a lot of geopolitical tensions of late. And there are a lot of sectarian divide, as I told you, that is sectarian divide between the Shiite Iran and the Sunni majority countries supported by Saudi Arabia has fueled the regional conflicts in the region. Also, if we see diplomatic tensions, there are a lot of diplomatic tensions, especially with the Sunni majority Pakistan, and it further complicates Iran's regional security dynamics. Moving forward, what has transpired recently, apart from all this and as a part of all this, amidst all the factors that we had discussed, which were contributing to the emergence of larger regional tensions, Iran has recently fired ballistic missiles into Iraq and Syria also. Not only it has fired air missiles or air strikes on Pakistan, but also has fired ballistic missiles into Iraq and Syria. That also included certain epicenter centers, okay? And moreover, it has unilaterally struck the alleged terror camps of the Balochistan region of Pakistan. And through these, Iran is actually trying to give a message to the conventional and the non-state rivals. Moving forward, it is very important to understand what is India's stand on it. India has backed the unilateral strike on Pakistan, but the irony is it is actually silent on such attacks that Iran has carried out on Iraq and Syria recently. It has given its voice only against its attack, that is Iran's attack on Pakistan. And India's interest actually lies here because in connecting with the Central Asia through Afghanistan and Iran is very important because we have our Chabahar port there, and this is actually against or countering the Chinese presence in the name of Gwadar port in Pakistan. Moving forward, what are the lessons which are actually learnt from this regional instability of the Middle East? First thing is that we need to adhere to international law, that is upholding territorial sovereignty and integrity as prescribed by the UN Charter and international law is very, very crucial for international relations and geopolitics. And definition of terrorism. There is a need for universally accepted definition of terrorism versus resistance with nation states to address the issue effectively. Next is there has to be peace in the region, especially with respect to Israel and Palestine in the recent past. Next one is complex diplomacy. India's diplomatic actions in the West Asian region demonstrate strategic autonomy, and this emphasizes the importance of independent decision making. Okay, and finally is the global peace. Strategic autonomy should be applied in order to promote international peace and security as a constitutional objective. The next article that we'll be discussing about is rainfall rising in over half of India's sub-districts, says 4-decade study. So this article is nothing but it talks about the recent study conducted by CEEW. This is nothing but Council on Energy, Environment and Water. So this particular think tank has analyzed the meteorological data that has been recorded by IMD, that is Indian Meteorological Department, over the past 4 decades, that is from 1982 to 2022. So here we will be discussing about what are the findings, what are the possible implications and the way forward. So this particular topic is important as we are going to read and understand about the southwest monsoons and the rainfall trends across India. And moving forward, we'll also understand the organization of IMD. And then this is important from prelims, that is physical geography, India and the world. So now let's get into the news. A study conducted by the Council on Energy, Environment and Water, that is CEEW, it is a policy think tank. It has analyzed the high resolution meteorological data spanning over 4 decades from 1982 to 2022 that has been recorded by IMD. Okay. So now if you look at the map, this actually shows the variations in the southwest monsoon of that particular time frame, that is 2012 to 2022. So if you see, it is 2012 to 2022 from the period of June to September. Okay. So it shows that India has received approximately 76% of its total annual rainfall in these months. And now let us, before moving into the topic, let us understand the concept of southwest monsoons. Okay. So this is basically India. So what happens is, during the months of June to September, this is the Tibetan Plateau. So there is excessive heating of the Tibetan Plateau that results in the development of low pressure. Okay, so the temperature actually increases and results in low pressure. And during similar months, if this is Africa, there is an area of extreme high pressure which is called as the mascarene high. And as we know, the wind systems moves from high pressure to low pressure. There is movement of winds from high pressure to low pressure, and since it is in the southwest direction, these are the southwest monsoons that hits the coast of India, specifically Kerala. During the months of June to September, there is excessive heating of the Tibetan Plateau that results in the development of low pressure. Alternatively, there is an area of high pressure which is called as the mascarene high off the coast of Africa, and the wind systems travel from the high pressure to the low pressure, causing the southwest monsoons, and this actually becomes, and this brings significant amount of rainfall to the subcontinent of India. Alternatively, after September, as the winter approaches, this low pressure is replaced by the high pressure by decrease in the temperature, and this high pressure gets replaced by the low pressure where there is an increase in the temperature and there is a reversal. And since this is in the northeast direction, this is called as the northeast monsoons. So this is basically about the concept of southwest and the northeast monsoons. Now let us get into the findings of the study. So first let's understand what is the definition of rainfall that has been given by IMD. Okay. So the India Meteorological Department was established in the year 1875, and it is important to know that this is a principal government agency that actually deals with all meteorological and allied studies in India. Anything related to climate as well as rainfall. And this particular IMD, that is India Meteorological Department, it has characterized the rainfall distribution into 5 categories. That is, the first is normal or the new normal, next is below normal, above normal, deficient as well as excess. So now let us understand each term one by one. Okay. So the IMD maintains 5 rainfall distribution categories on an all India scale, which include, the first one is normal or the new normal. This is when the percentage departure of rainfall is plus or minus 10% of LPA, that is between 96 to 104% of LPA. So here it is important to understand the concept of LPA. Okay. So LPA is nothing but it is the long period average. This is nothing but the rainfall recorded over a particular region for a particular interval over a long period. This can be 30 years, 50 years, etc. So here we need to understand the concept of LPA. LPA is nothing but it is the long period average. It is nothing but the rainfall that is recorded over a particular region for a particular interval over a long period like 30 years, 50 years, 70 years, etc. So based on that, the normal or the near normal rainfall is nothing but the percentage departure of almost plus or minus 10% of this long period average, okay, which is nothing but 96% to 104% of the LPA. And when it comes to below normal, this is when the departure of actual rainfall is less than 10%, that is 90 to 96% of this long period average. Moving forward, above normal is when the actual rainfall is 104 to 110% of the long period average, and deficient is said to be when it is between less than 90% of the LPA, and finally excess is when the departure of the actual rainfall is more than 110% of LPA. Moving forward, now let us look at the findings of the analysis of this particular Council on Energy, Environment and Water. The first finding is that district-wise rainfall extremes. It found out that 23% of the districts, including cities like New Delhi and Bangalore, actually witnessed both deficient as well as excessive rainfall in the past 4 decades, that is from the period of 1982 to 2022. And the implication is that, so this kind of variability, it shows that these particular cities have faced a lot of challenges with regards to resource management, agriculture, and a potential risk to infrastructure. Moving forward, they have found or they have noted down the southwest monsoon trends from 2012 as we saw in the map to 2022. That is, in the last decade, 55% of the tehsils had seen increased southwest monsoon rainfall, while 11% have experienced a decrease by over 10% compared to the baseline. And this what implication is that this particular changing rainfall pattern, this can potentially impact the agriculture calendars. This will affect the crop yields as well as the availability of water. Moving forward, there has been an observation on delayed southwest monsoon withdrawal. That is, in October, 48%, that is when the southwest monsoon has to withdraw from the Indian subcontinent. In October, 48% of the tehsils had experienced increased rainfall, possibly due to delayed southwest monsoon withdrawal. What can this actually imply, or what can be the implication, is that it can disrupt the seasonal transitions and it can influence post-monsoon agricultural activities. Next is the northeast monsoon trends. Over the past decade, it has been found that the northeast monsoon has increased in certain southern states, and the challenges in the timing as well as the intensity of the monsoon has implications on the water resources, that is the regional water resources, as well as the allied agricultural activities and practices. Moving forward, statistically significant rainfall increases. Traditionally, drier tehsils and the regions of Rajasthan, Gujarat, central Maharashtra and certain parts of Tamil Nadu have observed significant rainfall increases. And the positive, and this, what impact does this have is that it had positive impacts on agriculture, but there were potential challenges in managing excess water and mitigating the risks caused by floods. Next one is decrease in southwest monsoon rainfall. That is, among the tehsils with decreased southwest monsoon rainfall, a significant portion experienced reduced rainfall during the crucial sowing months. Okay, and the potential implication is that it had negative impact on the kharif crops. It affected the food production in key agricultural regions. And there has been increase in the heavy rainfall days. That is, 64% of the tehsils had seen an increase in heavy rainfall days during the southwest monsoon, particularly in the states with high GDPs. Okay, and the implication is that, so this particular increased heavy rainfall can lead to both the benefits. Benefits include improved soil moisture. At the same time, it causes the challenges, that is, it poses the risk of flooding. So now moving forward, what are the way forward and what are the measures? So as we see, according to WMO, that is World Meteorological Report, that named State of Global Water Resources Report, 2022. It lays emphasis on urgent need for improved monitoring of cross-border collaboration and a need for increased investments in water resource assessments. Therefore, with respect to India, the forthcoming budget should focus on adapting to erratic rainfall patterns and also to address increasing extreme weather as well as climatic events. Moving forward, measures such as hyperlocal climate risk assessments as well as associated action plans which are climate effective and disaster risk reduction should be focused on. The next article that we'll be discussing about is Ancient DNA Reveals Origins of Multiple Sclerosis. So this article discusses about a recent study which was published in the journal Nature. And this discusses about the genetic origin of a neurological condition called as multiple sclerosis that has affected millions of people worldwide. So this particular article becomes important for your prelims, that is general science, as well as mains GS paper 3, science and technology. So here we'll be discussing about what is multiple sclerosis, the causes, the symptoms, as well as the associated treatment. Also, we'll be discussing about autoimmune diseases. Moving forward, there has been a previous year question in 2017 prelims on the Zika virus. So from this, we understand that any kind of disease as well as the impact it actually has becomes important from your general science perspective. Moving forward, moving into the news, a study which was published in the journal Nature has shed light on the genetic origin of multiple sclerosis, which is nothing but a neurological condition that has affected millions of people worldwide. So now let us understand the key findings of the study before moving into the concept of what is multiple sclerosis. Okay. So the researchers had actually found out that there has been an incident of mass or major migration that had taken place around 5,000 years ago, which was probably the Bronze Age. Okay. So this migration was by the people named as Yamnaya. They were the herder people who moved into northern Europe from the current regions of Russia and Ukraine. So what happened was this major migration of the Yamnaya people had happened around, that is during the Bronze Age, around 5,000 years ago, into northern Europe from the current regions of Russia and Ukraine. And this particular herder population or group, so they had a genetic trait which acted as a defense mechanism against the infections from livestock. Later what happened, with improved living conditions as well as hygiene, the traits which acted as a defense mechanism from the infections against the livestock increased the probability of multiple sclerosis. So this particular genetic legacy is one of the major reasons behind the highest prevalence of multiple sclerosis in northern Europe. Now let us move forward. So now let us understand what is this disease or the neurological condition of multiple sclerosis. So multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune disease that affects the central nervous system, that includes the brain as well as the spinal cord. So here it is important to understand what is an autoimmune disease. Autoimmune disease is a condition where your immune system mistakenly affects the healthy cells, tissues or the organs of your body. So what is an autoimmune disease? An autoimmune disease is a condition where the immune system mistakenly affects the healthy cells, tissues or organs of the body, and multiple sclerosis is such an autoimmune condition. It occurs when the immune system attacks the protective sheath that is called as the myelin sheath that covers the nerve fibers, causing communication problems between the brain and the other parts of the body. Eventually, this disease can cause, since there is actually kind of distortions in the communications that happens between the brain and the other parts of the body, it causes nerves themselves to deteriorate and become permanently damaged. So if you look into this diagram, you can see these are the neurons or the nerve cells, okay? This is the signal that actually gets transferred. That is the communication that actually takes place during the normal condition. And these are the Schwann cells. And this is called as the myelin. Okay. So what happens is that this multiple sclerosis causes damage to this myelin and exposes the fiber. Thereby, there is distortion in the communication or the signals of communication between the brain and other parts of the body. Moving forward, now let us look at the key characteristics of multiple sclerosis. First one, the symptoms. It includes muscle weakness, difficulty in walking, numbness in various parts of the body, and there are problems associated with coordination as well as balance, followed by vision problems and cognitive changes. That includes problems with that of memory as well as concentration. And now if we look at the causes of multiple sclerosis, the exact cause of it is not known. Whether it is genetic or it is associated with any kind of environmental factors, we do not know. So, this particular cause is believed to involve a combination of genetic as well as environmental factors such as viral infections, and sometimes it can also be due to smoking as well as vitamin D deficiency. Now, let us look at the diagnosis. Diagnosis include the MRI. MRI is nothing but stands for magnetic resonance imaging, which provides detailed internal image of your body. The second one is the spinal tap test, which is also called as the lumbar puncture. If you can see in this drawing, here is that the spinal fluid is taken out and then it is actually tested for any kind of infection or inflammation. Now looking into the treatment, so far there has been no cure for this multiple sclerosis condition, and also there are other therapies like the disease modifying therapies, that is the DMTs, to manage the symptoms. Next, if you look at the prevalence, around 2.8 million people worldwide, that is around 35.9 people per 1 lakh people are affected with this particular neurological condition. Finally, moving on to the vulnerability, this particular disease is more common in young adults as well as women. Moving forward, as we discussed earlier, now let us look at the key findings of the study. The researchers have pinpointed that there has been an incident of major migration that took place 5,000 years ago during the Bronze Age, where the Yamnaya people, that is the herders, they moved into northern Europe from the current regions of Ukraine as well as southern Russia. And these herders had genetic traits that initially acted as a defense mechanism from infections against, the infections that were spread from the livestock. However, due to increasing living conditions as well as the hygiene conditions improved over thousands of years, that resulted in these same genetic traits that resulted in increased risk of developing multiple sclerosis. And this genetic legacy is believed to be the reason why Northern Europe has the highest prevalence of multiple sclerosis in the world. The next article that we'll be discussing about is Disproportionate Act CPR on cancellation of its FCRA license. So this particular article discusses about the Union government claiming the think tank CPR, that is the Center for Policy Research, has broken the rules of the FCRA, that is the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, by using the foreign funds for fighting legal battles against developmental projects. So this particular topic, it becomes relevant as we discuss FCRA Act and its provisions, and it becomes important under GS Paper 2, Structure, Organization and Functioning of Executive Developmental Process and the Role of NGO. Moving forward, there has been previous year questions on this particular topic, where the first one is examine critically the recent changes in the rule governing foreign funding of the NGOs under FCRA. And the next one reads about how can the role of the NGOs be strengthened in India for the developmental works relating to protection of environment. So here the role of NGOs as well as the regulation and the regulatory framework concerned with the same are actually important. Moving forward, as we discussed, the Union government has claimed that the think tank CPR, that is the Center for Policy Research, has broken the rules of the FCRA Act, that is the Foreign Contribution Regulations Act by using the foreign funds to fund the legal battles against the developmental projects. So here let us discuss about what is FCRA, what are the provisions or the features of this particular act, and what are the related concerns. So now let us understand what is Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. So this particular act was introduced in the year 1976 during the period of emergency. Okay. The objective of such a regulation was to control the foreign donations to the individuals and the organization. Thereby, you can actually have a check on the foreign interference or the interference by foreign powers in India's affairs. And it was also established with a motive for ensuring that the foreign donations are aligned with the principles of sovereign democratic republic of India. Moving forward, what are the key features of this particular act? The first one is that foreign contribution. What do you mean by foreign contribution? It refers to any kind of donations, deliveries or transfers from a foreign source, excluding the articles given as personal gifts, provided that this particular personal gift in India, that is the market value of the gift, does not exceed a specified sum. Moving forward, it does not include any kind of earnings from the foreign clients for goods or the services rendered, because in that case it does not become a foreign contribution, it becomes a commercial transaction. Okay. Then the next one is contributions made by a citizen of India living in another country, that is a non-resident Indian or the NRI, using their personal savings through regular banking channels are not considered as foreign contributions. However, the donations from an Indian who has acquired a foreign citizenship is treated as foreign contribution. So, it is important to understand the key features, what qualifies to be foreign contributions and what are not the foreign contributions. For example, the contributions made by the NRI are not counted as a foreign contribution, whereas the donations which are made by an Indian who has acquired a foreign citizenship is considered to be a foreign contribution. Moving forward, what is the limit for a foreign funding? The limit for contributions from relatives abroad that do not require government intimation is from 1 lakh to 10 lakh. So, this is according to FCRA 2022 rules. Moving forward, now let us look at the registration process. Okay. So, FCRA is actually mandatory for any person or NGO in order to receive foreign donations in India, and why this is to ensure transparency and accountability as well as legal compliance. Moving forward, it is granted to individuals and associations who are engaged in any kind of activity like cultural, economic, educational, religious or social programs with respect to that of India. Next, entities can register under multiple categories based on the activities that they want to perform. That is based on their engagement in cultural, economic, educational or religious activities. Next, applicants must have a one specific bank account at the State Bank of India branch in New Delhi for receiving foreign funds, and no other bank account is actually allowed. Now, looking at the validity of this particular registration, FCRA registration is initially valid for 5 years and the NGO must apply for renewal within 6 months of the expiration of the registration. Also, the government can cancel an NGO's funding, that is FCRA registration as well as its funding, for reasons such as violations or lack of activity in a particular chosen field for 2 consecutive years. And in case if the registration is cancelled, then the particular NGO or an organization cannot re-register for 3 years. Moving forward, following are the categories that are prohibited from receiving foreign funds under FCRA. What is it? First one is prohibitions are FCRA prohibits representation of the fictitious entities, that is any kind of illegal activities or any kind of fictitious active entities are prohibited from applications. Also, the applicant should not involve in any kind of religious conversion activities. Next one is that a person who is having history of prosecutions related to communal tension or disharmony does not qualify to apply or to register under FCRA. Also, engagement in activities related to sedition is also not allowed under FCRA. Moving forward, According to Section 3 of the FCRA, let's see, foreign funds are not allowed for receiving for the following candidates or the entities. Let's see who are they. First one, by candidates of election. Most of these are actually who hold a constitutional post or a political post in the country. Okay, the candidates for election. Next one is correspondents and publishers of a registered newspaper, because here press actually becomes your third pillar of democracy. Next, judges, government servants or employees of any government controlled or owned corporation or a body. Next one is members of any legislature. Next is the political parties or their office bearers, followed by organizations of a political nature specified by the central government. And next one is associations or companies involved in production or broadcast of audio news, AV news or any kind of current affairs programs through any electronic mode or other electronic forms as defined. Now moving ahead, let's look at the concerns of NGOs with respect to that of Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. The first one is lack of transparency, because there is an absence or insufficiency of clear and open disclosure. This makes the information very less visible as well as understandable. The next one is administrative delays, that is, there are unforeseen hindrances as well as bureaucratic interferences that can impede the timely execution of the tasks or decisions. Moving forward, there is strict compliance, that is, it actually ensures very rigorous adherence to the rules and regulations. So there is actually no room for flexibility or any kind of deviation or non-compliance. Next one is uneven access to funding. That is, there has been a huge disparity in the availability or the accessibility of the financial resources, resulting in unequal opportunities for various entities or individuals. Now let us solve few prelims as well as mains practice questions. The first question reads, consider the following statements regarding multiple sclerosis. MS is an autoimmune disease. Yes, it is correct. It primarily affects the peripheral nervous system. No, central nervous system. The primary diagnostics tools for this particular disease are ECG and blood test. No, this is wrong. It includes MRI as well as spinal tap. So going by this options, the answer is A, that is 1 only. Moving on to the next question, Article 19, Clause 2 of the Constitution allows the state to impose reasonable restrictions on freedom of speech and expression in the interest of sovereignty and integrity of India. Correct. Security of the state. Correct. Friendly relations. Correct. Public order, decency and morality. Correct. So since all are correct, the answer will be option D. Moving forward, the third question is, consider the following statement regarding rainfall defined by the IMD. The normal or near normal rainfall occurs, which is actually plus or minus 10%. This is correct. The below normal is plus, that is 10% from LPA ranging from 90 to 96%. This is correct. The next one is above normal rainfall indicates actual rainfall reaching 104 to 110% of the long period average. All the three statements are correct. So which of the above statements are correct? Here it actually is all. That is, answer is option C. Moving forward, question number 4. Consider the following statements regarding FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. It is mandatory to obtain the registration prior permission from the central government to receive the foreign donation. Yes, this is correct. According to this act, the contribution excludes earnings from the foreign client. Yes, this is also correct. Contributions made by the NRI from his personal savings is treated as foreign contribution. No, this is not treated as foreign contribution. Donation from an Indian origin person who has acquired foreign citizenship is treated as foreign contribution. This is also correct. So going by the options, the answer is option number D. Moving forward, which of the following countries share a border with Iran? Pakistan, yes. Turkey, yes. Iraq, yes. And Afghanistan, yes. These kind of map questions become very important. So going by the options, the answer is D, that is all of the above. Now let us solve the mains practice question, which is, in the context of recent developments, critically analyze the nature of regional crisis emerging in West Asia. What are the possible efforts to avert such regional crisis in the future? So here, the approach to the answer is, in the introduction, we will actually start by discussing or mentioning the recent developments in the West Asian region, including the recent airstrike on the Pakistan soil by Iran. In the body, we'll discuss, that is, we'll outline the history of events involving Iran since 1979 and as a follow-up till the recent one, that is how these events have fueled the developments that has led to the recent crisis. And also, we'll mention various efforts necessary to averting such crisis, which we had discussed in the article. Here in the conclusion, we can actually specify what are the efforts or the developments made by India in actively pursuing the necessary efforts for peace in this particular region. That's all with the daily news analysis. For regular updates, please like, share and subscribe to Narayana IAS Academy YouTube channel. Thank you.